If you're going through a breakup, then you're probably worried that this is the end for you and your ex, that you're never going to see them again. But the truth is that many relationships don't end after a breakup. In fact, studies have shown that over 50% of couples break up and get back together at least once. Now, you might find that hard to believe, but that's because people don't advertise their breakups, especially once they've decided to get back together. So really, there is a very good chance that this isn't the end for your relationship. But let's talk about how you can know that for sure and how you can be certain that this breakup is temporary, and also what you need to do next. Now, we're going to start by getting into the signs that your breakup is only temporary. Now, if you do notice these signs, then you can bet that your ex is going to come crawling back before you know it, and you'll be able to start again. And we'll begin with sign number 1, which is your ex is very sad or very angry. Now, obviously, sadness is a part of every breakup, but a high degree of sadness is often a sign of lingering emotional attachment. So if your ex cries during the breakup, that doesn't really mean anything. That's normal. But if your ex is showing signs of sadness weeks or even months later, like they cry when they talk to you, or they tell you how sad they are, or people tell you that they seem really depressed, then that is a sign that they're probably not over you, and the relationship probably isn't over either. And this is even more significant when it comes to your ex's anger. See, an angry ex is much more likely to come back than one who's not angry. Because, while anger is negative, it's also a sign of emotional investment. Now, don't get me wrong, like if you cheated, lied, or otherwise mistreated your ex, then this anger is less significant and it's unlikely they'll be coming back because they won't be able to trust you again. But if their anger is more at the situation and it seems disproportionate to what happened, then that is a good sign for your future together. Because this typically means that they're upset about the breakup and they're looking to place blame so that they can squash those feelings. And this is why you shouldn't apologize to your ex if they act this way. If you take the blame, then it's going to be easier for them to get over you because they'll be able to say, it's their fault that we broke up, rather than having to actually really interrogate their feelings. If you let them rage, then over time, they're going to come to see what they're really upset about, and that is the fact that they threw the relationship away without trying to fix things. And that is when they're going to come back to you. Now, on the flip side of this is an ex who's very distant, very cold, and basically over it. A bored ex is much harder to win back than an angry or sad ex because it's hard to relight the fire when they're truly done and they're already in the process of moving on. And on to another significant sign, number 2, which is that your ex is keeping the breakup to themselves. So as we talked about, people don't know how often couples get back together because they don't advertise the fact that they broke up. So it stands to reason that the temporary breakups are the ones where neither party is really eager to tell the world. Sure, you could say that they're embarrassed, and that is definitely a part of it, but more than that, it's typically because some part of them doesn't want to admit that it's over. Some part of them knows that they want to give it at least one more try before they really admit defeat and start looking elsewhere. So if your ex, has gone silent on social media and isn't even telling their close friends that you broke up, well, that's a great sign for your chances of getting back together. They don't want to take those steps until they know that that is for sure the direction that they're going in. And another sign here is that they haven't, deleted old photos or changed their relationship status. And then there's sign number 3, which is your ex is sending mixed messages. So when your ex is very hot and cold, it can definitely be really distressing. One minute it feels like the breakup never happened, and the next they won't even return your calls. But as hard as that can be to deal with, it is actually almost always a good sign for your future together. Because it means that your ex is fighting an internal battle. They know that they miss you, that they want you and they love you, but they also feel like they need to stay away from you because the relationship is over. So these two competing ideas are causing them to sort of swing back and forth between affectionate and distant, and it's probably making you both feel crazy. But the good news is that love almost always wins out in these kind of situations. Because these are decisions that we make with our hearts, not our heads. Practical matters are almost never going to convince somebody to move on when their heart is still set on you. So in the meantime, just hold on. Try not to let your ex's hot and cold behavior get you down because, like I said, it typically means that you will have another chance when the time is right. And that brings us to number 4, which is you scored above 70 on my free quiz. Now, determining your ex's feelings is such a hard process after a breakup because they're doing their best to hide them from you. And that's why I created my free quiz tool. Just go to breakupbrad.com/quiz after the video, answer a few questions, and find out exactly how your ex feels about you right now. Now, this is vital information to have because it will determine what your next move should be to ensure you get them back. Again, after the video, just go to breakupbrad.com/quiz to find out the truth. And sign number 5, your ex gets jealous when they hear you're dating somebody new. Now, this might be an obvious one, but jealousy is a sign of emotional investment, which is a sign, obviously, of continued interest from your ex. So even if your ex claims to be totally over you, if they seem jealous that you're seeing somebody new, or even just hanging out with new people and having fun without them, then that is a strong sign that they're probably going to come back. I mean, think about it. Jealousy is about possessiveness. They feel like they have a claim on you because in their mind, the relationship isn't over. So don't let your ex try to convince you that you're in the wrong for dating again because it's too soon or because it means that you never really cared about them. These are the kind of tactics of a jealous person trying to make sure that you stay available so that they can have another chance with you. And sign number 6, your ex is angry when you go no contact. So we've already talked about how anger is a sign of emotional investment, and oftentimes no contact can bring out your ex's anger really like nothing else. So for those of you who don't know, no contact is a strategy that I highly recommend to people trying to win their ex back. Basically, it just means going radio silent with your ex for around 30 days after a breakup. And really, it means no contact of any kind as much as possible, unless it's really absolutely necessary. And I promise you, this is the best way to make your ex miss you and to realize that they are going to lose you if they don't make a move. Now, it's really hard to maintain no contact because it feels like you're losing your lifeline to this other person. But while it may be hard for you, it's even harder for your ex. They'll feel like the sky is falling when you suddenly go cold and you start focusing on yourself. And that's why they'll often lash out at you in anger when you do try no contact. It's usually not calculated, but it's an attempt to get you to back down and open up the lines of communication again. They may try to shame you for moving on so fast, but it's really just because they miss you and they want your presence desperately. So maintain your distance and then just watch as they pretty quickly back down and come crawling back to you for another chance. All right, and sign number 7, your ex is bargaining. There's a strange behavior that I've noticed with exes that come back, and it's what I call bargaining. So maybe you've ever heard of the 5 stages of grief. So when someone suffers a loss, they're going to be upset, but they won't go right from anger into deep sadness. Typically, they'll go through a few other stages first. And one of those stages is bargaining. So maybe they'll say, God, take me instead. Or if you bring them back, I'll do anything you ask. It doesn't really make sense, but grief does strange things to people. And your ex is going through a form of grief right now as well. So you might find that they do start to display that bargaining behavior. And this usually presents itself in a few ways. So I've seen exes who say, I just want one night with you before we say goodbye. Or even, let's stay together for a few more weeks because I couldn't handle losing you right now. Or even, don't move out just yet, it's not a good time. And this can really drive you crazy because how can they want to end the relationship and then still expect you to go along with stuff like this? And another way it presents itself is that they'll call you up and relitigate old fights and apologize and explain themselves. Basically, they're trying to show you that things aren't the way you thought they were. But really, this is just an attempt to get you into more conversations with them so that they can continue to hear your voice and can continue to be connected to you. Now, sure, obviously, fighting with you isn't fun, but for your ex, it can be better than being alone when they still have feelings for you. And on to sign number 8, your ex is very responsive. So on the flip side of some of these negative signs, a positive sign is when your ex is very responsive to your messages and calls. Typically, when somebody's moving on, they're gonna grow more and more distant over time. But if your ex is still very friendly towards you and very communicative, then that is a sign that it's probably not over. I mean, think about it. The more we like somebody, want to see them, want them in their lives, the faster we tend to respond to them, right? So the same goes for your ex. They want to talk to you because they want you, at least in most cases. And finally, sign number 9, it ended abruptly. Sometimes a breakup can seem to come out of nowhere and hit you like a ton of bricks. Maybe you had a fight that spiraled out of control in an instant, or maybe they told you it was over when things really seemed perfect. Now, of course, that's very painful, but it's also actually a good sign for your future together. Because a serious relationship typically doesn't end just like that, even if it might seem to. Usually you will see the end coming for a while, you just don't want to admit it. There's a loss of attraction, a gradual disconnection, a series of conflicts, and eventually then it becomes time to admit defeat. But when the breakup comes out of nowhere, it typically means that one or both parties were reacting rather than making a conscious choice. So in these cases, the call to break up came out of a desire for space rather than a desire to actually end the relationship for good. So if things ended this way for you, then there is a very good chance that your ex is going to come back to you before long. All right, well, hopefully now you know whether or not your breakup is temporary or if this is permanent. If you are wondering what to do next, I'd recommend you go to breakupbrad.com right now and watch my full free video presentation there. That video is packed with some of my best advice and a lot of next steps for those hoping to reconnect with their ex. And also, if you haven't yet, don't forget to take my free 5-minute quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz as well. And that's it. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Please hit like and subscribe before you leave, and good luck out there. See you next time.